أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين ونستغفره، نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، فإن كل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. وإنما توعدون لآت وما أنتم بمعجزين. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He's the only one worthy of praise. I seek His help, His guidance and His forgiveness. I believe in Him and I trust Him. I seek refuge on Almighty Allah from the evil of our passions. Indeed, whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him to al-Islam, no one can mislead him after Allah. And whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put him astray, no one can guide him after Allah. I testify openly that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah Rabbil Alameen. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his messenger and the seal of all the prophets. O Muslims, you must know that the best speech is the speech of Almighty Allah, which is the Quran. The best guidance is the course of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is his sunnah. The worst of all affairs is innovation and addition to the religion of Islam. Indeed, every addition to the religion of Islam will lead to hellfire. I adjure you as well as myself to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of your ability. Fear Allah and don't die unless you are in a state of Islam. My dear respected brothers and sisters, we are approaching a season of ta'ah, a season of obedience. And Muslims everywhere try to take this golden opportunity to get more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're talking about Al-Hajj Ashhurun Ma'lumat. Hajj is a specific month. We are in the time of Hajj. which some Muslims already had arrived to Mecca, and some Muslims, they doing their preparation. And this has come to remind us about something very important in Islam. The subject which is very important, as much as water important for the land. If you don't have rain, no vegetation, no crops, no fruit, no vegetable. It can be a starvation for human being as well as animals. Al-Islam, the rain that make it Islam grow and become green and gives its fruits is the tadhiyah, sacrifice. No rain, no vegetation. No sacrifice, no result. You will find the Muslims will get weak and get oppressed, and they will lose their property, their lands, and they will lose their honor and their dignity. And after this, the enemies of Islam not going to be content by oppressing them, but they will go even after their religion, and they try to label it with different label. Therefore, it is very important for every Muslim, male and female, to learn and study and understand about the foundation of this deen is sacrifice. Sacrifice can come in different form. It can be by time, it can be by money, it can be even with your own life. Some people will give their life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the early Sahaba, as well as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all the prophets before, taught us great lessons about sacrificing and giving their life for the sake of Allah. Some people, they make sacrifice for Allah. And some people, they make sacrifice with their religion. Because they have the person who will make the sacrifice, and what kind of sacrifice he or she will do it. If it's time or money or life, and what you're sacrificing for. Living in a society like this that we're living in, or in Europe, Western society in general, you found a lot of people, they will give the sacrifice, but they giving what? They are not giving their time or their money. They giving up some of their deen. And will start a little bit by little bit. The way they look, their names, their behavior, their socializations, and they start to sacrifice, not for the deen, but they will sacrifice their deen. Especially when it comes a temptation, it comes a promotion, you're going to be the manager, and Friday, the working day, and 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock is the lunch hour. So, Mr. Muhammad, you're going to have to do something about it. It's Jumah. But Mr. Muhammad, that this is business. We here in America, we here in England, we here in wherever. Mr. Muhammad, he will think about it. He will start to get different excuses in his mind that Jum'ah is okay, or I will make one Jum'ah and leave the other Jum'ah. Mr. Muhammad, you're working with food. You could not have this beard here. Sister Mrs. Khadija or Miss Abdullah, this a hazard. This headpiece is hazard. You could not work here because we have this is security risk. You have to do about it, something about it, Mrs. Abdullah. And of course, Mrs. Abdullah and Mr. Abdullah and Mr. Mohammed, they're going to think about it, and after this, they became their own mufti. So instead of some people making sacrifice for Allah, giving their time, giving from their money, or even giving their life if it necessitates, now they start leave their Islam and give up from Islam little bit by little bit. Mr. Muhammad, we have a meeting tonight. We have a Christmas party. And you know, as executive member, you have to be there. And of course, it's not only Mr. Muhammad. Now we need Mrs. Muhammad also to come. Because you understand, you're going to meet our board. And you understand? So for sure, nice, beautiful 3 pieces and a tie. And have to so cold, shave, clean and shave. Subhanallah. The sacrifice, if you're not going to train yourself for sacrifice, is going to be a little bit demand in you. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Sooner or later, you will only go for Eid prayer. And we see this already, and we observe it, and we witness to it. We're not talking from a theory, I'm talking from experience. Life of 35 years in America, life of 35 as imam, as a director, as a person who is involved in the Islamic world, traveling here and there, I can tell you it happening. The sacrifices started with all the prophets, and they became as a model, a leader for their community. Look to the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Not only time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look to the Prophet Ibrahim. When he took his family and relocate for the order of Allah. But the new location doesn't have a jacuzzi. It doesn't have a swimming pool in the backyard. It doesn't have an elevator in the building. رب إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم. Why? ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة. Oh Allah, I had relocated my family to a valley or an area which is no vegetation. Beside what? Your holy house, your sacred house. For what purpose? ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة. The establishment of the prayer, the establishment of the ibadah and the tawheed. This is the most important thing that you've been created for. So whenever required, even in a valley or in between 2 mountains, which is no vegetation, and the great sacrifice been given by a man and a woman, and the child, the baby, doesn't know anything about it yet. And when everybody coming to prepare today, and they spend the start